Hello, my fellow fossil fighters. I'm Bereznicki, and I am back with another Fossil Fighters Top 10 list. Today's list is going to be the top 10 creatures I think would be good for the water element. Another top 10, that is. Now, if you haven't seen the previous water Vivosaur list I had posted a long time ago, I'll leave a link to that video down in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's dig our way into this top 10 list. Number 10. Adiponentatus. Starting off this list is a rather unusually jawed reptile. Semi-aquatic by nature, what was strange about it was when it was initially discovered. At first, it was thought that it was, in a nutshell, a filter feeder feeding on invertebrates, partly because of what its squished jaws gave the upper jaw the appearance of a zipper's smile of little teeth. Discoveries in 2016, however, indicated otherwise. Adipod actually had a hammer-shaped head with chisel-shaped teeth, which would be useful in rooting the seabed for food, algae in particular. This means that Adiponentatus was a herbivore by nature. Either way, it is little wonder that its specific scientific name is Unicus. With this in mind, I imagine Adipod with some rather unique attacks, including something like algae amoeba, to raise either its own or an ally's defense, as well as a somewhat stronger attack named Hungry Hammer, referring to his hammer-shaped head. Attaboy, Adipod! Number 9. Hraptor. Next up is a duck-sized waterfowl like Dromaeosaur from Mongolia. This possible Vivosaur could be considered the water element equivalent to the earth element Compso, except maybe instead of dropping the attack and defense stats of enemy Vivosaurs by 90%, it would drop the attack stat by 20%, the defense and accuracy stats by 45%, and the speed stat by 25%. These stats are somewhat for balance reasons. Anyway, Hraptor could have some straightforward attacks and attack names such as Seafoam Spray and Splash Claw. It should probably have an attack skill that attacks random enemy Vivosaurs. Being so small, it obviously would have low LP but high speed, as well as low FP costs to their attacks. The Link ability could add to Hraptor's utility. Now, if Hraptor is anything like a chicken or a swan for example, its size shouldn't be taken lightly. Number 8. Cryodragon. A new gigantic pterosaur of the water element? Yes, please. Cryodragon, which means cold dragon, is rather fitting for a pterosaur that rivals even Coatl and Hraptor in size, which are of the air and earth elements respectively. Maybe Crydra can have a draconic look to its design as well? Regarding attack names, I imagine some could have names that refer to the draconic or cold connotation to Crydra's name, such as Dragon Chill or Aurora Typhoon, and maybe Freeze Breath, which can inflict sleep on the opponent, similar to Cryo, though granted whichever Vivosaur is better is up for debate, in some respects. And I think this big guy was discovered in Canada. Seriously though, even though Canada shares a national border with North America, Canada should not be underestimated. I mean, if Cryodragon is anything like the country it was discovered in, such a giant pterosaur is no joke, especially in battle. Number 7. Acryxanadosaurus. Another abelisaur dinosaur, similar to Majungasaurus and Carnotaurus, Acryxanadosaurus is a rather smaller member of this theropod group, being smaller even than Carnotaurus. Among other abelisaurs, it does not have anything to make it stand out, other than the shorter skulls typical of other abelisaurs. To put this in perspective, imagine the Carnotaurus not having its horns above its eyes. Nevertheless, the name alone of Acryxanadosaurus, or Acryx for short, should qualify this dinosaur to be a new Vivosaur. Keeping with the lone wolf themes of Carno and Cerato, and possibly Majungasaurus of the fire element, I imagine Acryx being the water element lone wolf of the Vivosaurs, as in they possess no team skills and disable team skills altogether even when teamed with those that do have team skills. To compensate though, when said lone wolf is the last Vivosaur standing, it gains a great attack boost with a solar power ability. However, I'm starting to imagine that if these lone wolves put their differences aside, maybe, just maybe, they could have a secret team skill of their own, kind of like the Japanese Vivosaurs in Fossil Fighters 1 and Fossil Fighters Champions. But back to Acryx. Acryx attacks could be named Acryx Shuffle to mess up enemy formations. It could even have a strong poison attack named Acryx Erosion. Admittedly, there's not much more to say for Acryx except...
Nice name.
Number 6. Alaskacephalic. Hailing from, you guessed it, Alaska, this Pachycephalosaurus should be of the water element, for reasons similar to Cryodragon and the aforementioned Acryxanadosaurus. And if my observations are correct, we don't have any Pachycephalosaurs of the water element in any of the games as of yet. Not even in Fossil Fighters Frontier.
What?
If and when it does get in what is hopefully a future Fossil Fighters game, it definitely deserves team skill compatibility with the other boneheaded Vivosaurs, as well as another Pachycephalosaurid of the neutral element, but more on that in a future video. In any event, Lasco would obviously have its ramming missile attacks like its brethren, but its support effects would affect the enemy as well, dropping their accuracy stats by 40% and the speed stat by 60%, useful for evading the AZ enemy's attacks while attacking to their allies' advantage. Its team skill might also be used to poison the enemy, since each Pachycephalosaurid Vivosaur had varying effects, including scare and excite skills for stinging and packing, respectively. Number 5. Shringasaurus. An Alacotosaurid reptile discovered in India, Shringasaurus is a somewhat unusual creature, being a Triassic four-legged herbivore with two forward-curving horns, similar to Triceratops, except with the head of a Carnotaurus. Its horns were likely used in a wrestling battle fashion of locking heads with each other. Shringas could use such power to change enemy formation, in addition to holding its own team's position. It could even attack all of the enemies with a tidal wave, similar to Tanstro, except with a 35% to inflict minor poison. At max rank, its support effects could give its teammates a 28% increase to all but the speed stats, especially considering that Shringas may have low speed but relatively high defense, and almost as high attack power. Number 4. Borosus. Ah yes, the terrestrial crocodile that rivaled the carnivorous dinosaurs, and even hunted dinosaurs back in the day. The Belosaurids in particular were its rivals back then, and though Boris wasn't quite as large as fellow crocodilian Fasolasuchus, it otherwise shouldn't be taken lightly, especially if it has high attack and the high end of mid-range speed. Now, Boris could have some attacks that could be named Saurus Cruncher, or maybe Boris Brunt. With such high attack and sharp teeth, it could be equipped with a high critical ratio. Its defense might be lacking in some respects, though I imagine not as much as Dynamaton, so use this creature with caution, especially against air Vivosaurs. Number 3. Toxidon. Next pick on this list is Toxidon, a creature that, in a nutshell, is a prehistoric relative of the hippopotamus. Like hippos, they have their nostrils, eyes, and ears at the top of their face, useful for smelling, seeing, and hearing what's going on above the water, and these traits are shared with the modern dugong and the manatee as well. However, one must beware of both tox and hippos, because they may seem lumbering, cumbersome, and some might dare even say, chubby? Adorable even. But make no mistake, either species are no joke. Hippos in particular have huge jaws that are capable of biting crocodiles in half. And if Toxidons are anything like hippos, they can be highly territorial and definitely run faster than humans. Herbivores they are, but jokes they are not. The Okapi color scheme that Prehistoric Park decided to give them notwithstanding. In any case, Tox could definitely have some biting or even ramming moves, some of which could inflict confusion on the opponent, like Tox Tussle. Number 2. Tylosaurus. I know it might seem unfortunate for some of you that this otherwise mighty pliosaur is only runner-up on this list, but that doesn't make it any less powerful or dangerous to be sure. Tylo is larger than Mosasaurus, who I did consider for the list, but found didn't quite make the cut. Anyway, Tylo was much larger in the Jurassic World movies, probably Megalodon size if you ask me, big enough to swallow a great white shark whole. And, spoiler alert, it helped defeat the otherwise baddest genetic dinosaur ever, Indominus Rex. Anyway, this mighty sea predator definitely earns a runner-up spot for good reason. Aside from being a great swimmer, it is also a welcome addition to the plesiosaur, and ichthyosaur groups that are rather rare in the games, and strangely absent in Frontier. With these traits in mind, I imagine Tylo with stats similar or greater than that of Krona, who is otherwise considered to be the T-Rex of the seas, as well as attack names such as Tylo Typhoon. To offset such power, it could have relatively low defense and some negative support effects while in the support zone, by about 35% at max rank. Even so, Tylo could definitely be the terror of the seas for sure. Now before we take a dive with my number 1 pick, here are some aquatic honorable mentions. Number 1. Livyatan. Oh, it's a whale of a tale when it come upon a megalodon. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Anyway, this prehistoric whale and relative of fellow whale Bereznicki was much larger than Bereznicki, and as such was a bigger contender with megalodon back in the day, sometime after the dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and sea-dwelling reptiles went extinct. Also related to sperm whales, Lyata would use its head as a battering ram alongside other Leviathans to fend off megalodon. Since Bereznicki had teeth similar in size to that of Tyrannosaurus rex, you can bet Lyata had even bigger teeth. Attack names befitting this creature could include Lambasting Lyata and Whale's Wrath. It could be equipped with a charge skill for greater power on the next turn, hence its large head and possibly high speed to boot. Not to mention the high LP stat for this whale of a... whale? I mean, its sheer size alone pretty much rivals anything aquatic that's not a modern-day blue whale. Maybe even Tylosaurus and Megalodon. Now, to be fair, some might argue that Tylo could have made the top spot of this list, but remember that its size in Jurassic World was only due to genetic enhancement overseen by Henry Wu. And if Lyata can rival Megalodon, who topped my previous water Vivosaur list, well then, there's a reason, among other reasons, that Lyata is at the top of this other water Vivosaur list. That's my opinion, anyway. Now, for secret number 11, we have Hallucigenia. You know, with a name like that and an appearance like a spiky sea worm, it's no wonder it's named something like that. Alright, my fellow fossil fighters, that's my list. Do you agree with my picks? Do you have any other ideas as to what Vivosaurs you would like of the water element, or of any other elements for that matter? Now, if you're new to this channel, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos by me, mostly of the music variety, but also for top 10s and other fun videos. Alright, be safe everyone, have yourselves a great day, peace.